Bridget and Laura is the Director of Student Success. Am I right with that, Laura? I have maybe a little wrong.
It's Graduate Student Life.
Graduate Student Life.
It means the same thing.
All about. And at Appalachian State University. Yes. And I'm asked Laura to co-present with me today because her program at Appalachian State about 4 professional developments is just beautifully done. And I think out of all of the universities that I work with, which I'm very privileged to work with fantastic deans and fantastic professional development people, I still have a lot of just admiration for the work Laura has done with students and for students. So we're here today talking about it. What's on your screen at the moment, if you're watching by recording, is the fact that we are also testing out a new software adjunct, which we hope will allow students to have, and people who are watching, not just students, candidates and others who are watching, to have a way of communicating that stays with us past the webinar. Because if you're watching by recording, you may see what people here are saying, but you might wish that you could add your 2 cents, and this will allow us to move that direction, we believe. So if you go to wooclap.com, and we have our first answer to the reflective question, which I will, but you can continue working there as you're listening throughout the webinar, and we'll come back to the answers and see how they have gone. And thank you. So we're talking today about coming back to education, whether or not you were just here last month or you were here 10 years ago and you're just now coming back. Tips, tricks, hacks for acclimating to graduate work. And it's both myself and Laura. And so our agenda is to talk about the tips that turn apprehension into strength, tricks that help you build towards success, hacks, which are practical things you can do to make your life easier, to keep you moving from strength to strength, and then a little conversation from both of us about upcoming professional development. So once again, this is going on in the background. And at the end of what we are about, every section that is part of our webinar today, you will be able to go in and share a piece of information that was from that section that might have been meaningful to you. And I think that's important because other people, if you're so inclined to say, oh, I liked this, they might say, oh, I like that too. And that feels good to us, doesn't it, that we're having similar experiences. Okay, enough said. Laura, we're turning tips from turning apprehension into success. Isn't she great? Yeah. Oh my God. She's saying, oh my God. So once again, the road, and here we go. So today's graduate school. What do you have to say, Laura, about today's graduate school and how it's different maybe than if somebody's coming back from 10 years ago? How's it going to be different?
You know, I think that graduate school is a reflection of societal changes. So it seems like there are a lot more demands on time for all of us. And I used to talk to my undergraduate students and say to them that going to college is adding another layer to an already busy person. And I think that that's something that is difficult sometimes for people to kind of conceptualize before they start this journey of graduate school, that there's already a busy life going on, and that is not going to slow down necessarily to let something else come in and take its place. It's going to be an addition. And so I think that there's a lot of prep work that can be done ahead of time before someone starts, but also at the beginning. So if you've already started, there are things that you can do, which we're going to talk about today with you, that will help you to get yourself better organized. Also, just to understand that a lot of the feelings that you have are perfectly normal. But I do think that our society and how busy and um, how high tech and how demanding it is also is reflected in the graduate school experience.
I think too, people go to graduate school maybe for different reasons. Upskilling is common,
Mm-hmm.
and graduate school is a process to go with that upskilling. And there are many more masters and doctorals people who've earned those degrees in the workplace, and therefore employers look for more degrees than they used to.
Mm-hmm.
That throws into any cohort within a university. People who might not have chosen to do it 10 years ago now would be choosing to do it. And people who are in graduate school used to move on to academic jobs pretty much most of the time. And now we see that less and less.
Right.
So it's not only a change for a person, it's a change for the professors and the university. So we're talking about a changing environment. I think that's important. Context is always important to keep in mind.
Yes.
Now, Laura, you said these things when we talked, that people might not understand why the people in a student graduate person's life may not understand why they're doing what they're doing. You came back as an adult learner. What was your story like?
There were people who thought I was absolutely crazy for, I had 2 small children, and I was pursuing a master's degree in higher education, adult learning, and with a specialist in reading education. And people thought that I was just nuts because I was already teaching full time at a small private college. The classes that I would be taking in the master's program were evening classes. Back then, there was no online option. And when I say back then, I'm only talking about the early 2000s, but there was not an online option for me. So I would leave work and go take care of whatever kid things I had to take care of, run 30 minutes down the road to the university and sit in a 3-hour class. And I was exhausted. And so I think that for me, some of that helped propel me. I wanted to prove to people that I could do it. But more than that, I listened very carefully to the people who were supportive. And you always have to look for your champions, find out who your champions are, the people who do understand. And if you come from a family, or if you have a lot of friends who are first generation college students, or who haven't attended university or haven't attended college, it is difficult sometimes for them to understand the draw or the benefits of that, or why you're doing that for yourself. And I don't necessarily think that there's a lot of value in trying to explain that. I think that surrounding yourself with champions is a key to getting through it. When you're on the other side of it and people see those benefits, that answers the question. So it may sound rather harsh, but I think it's very true.
Oh, I think it's a good point. It's very hard to explain to people when you're being driven to do something that they don't have anything about. Adrian mentions that grad school is as much about intelligence as it is about diligence, determination, persistence, and resilience.
Yeah.
So you mentioned all of those things. So for you, what was going on for you is, if I can look at the things we talked about, people didn't understand why you were doing it.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't feel like you belonged. You felt overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
You wondered if you had made a mistake as you went through it.
Many times.
And did you also feel like that you might be an imposter, that they might catch on if that you
Oh,
actually
yeah,
belong there. So
absolutely.
you might speak to that.
Yeah, I think, there was, I think all of those things are very true. And um, I, I guess my way of overcoming that was to push forward. I believe that my mantra is probably always about forward movement. Um, and so I don't spend a lot of time thinking back. I'm always thinking about the opportunities that are ahead. And so I think that helped me tremendously to stay focused. But I also think that um, I kept my sights on what I wanted to accomplish beyond the master's degree. Having the master's degree was a means for me to be able to continue to serving students, and these were undergraduate students at the time, to be able to serve students who were academically marginalized, or who were first generation low income families. And that was a very positive thing for me to stay focused on, because that is a passion and a vocation. So just staying focused on that. But I did feel like at many times that I had made a mistake by going back to school. I felt like an imposter. I felt like people were going to figure me out. Um, I felt like that people thought that I was, again, just nuts for doing it. Um, and I didn't dare talk about how tired I was, how much I had to do. I felt like if I did that, that I was going to get this backlash of, well, you kind of deserve it because you added this to your plate. So again, I reached out to my champions. There were faculty that had taught me at the school where I was teaching, because that was an alma mater for me. I went to them and spent a lot of time talking to them about my feelings, and they were super helpful. My husband was very helpful. My kids understood, even as small as they were. They thought it was cool that mom was back in school. So I think it's just a matter of, sometimes you almost have to block out the negativity and remove yourself from the context of that, and really focus on what's positive.
Okay, so tips is about halfway through the first semester, things do seem to get easier. You get your
Absolutely.
feet.
Yeah.
And that's the truth, whether or not some of the people here have been around a while. They're not coming back to, like, after a long distance, they're coming back after a short one. But
Mhm.
if you go into a semester and you have apprehension about anything, just kind of keep your eye on that, keep
Yeah.
working on that. And about halfway through the first semester, things begin to ease out.
Yeah.
In general, what the research has shown us is that students who reach out and build diverse communities, underscore diverse, and networks have stronger uphill curve. And the reason that happens is because you have more people. Laura's been talking about finding your champions. Well, you have more champions who have a different way of looking at the world,
Yes.
and that different way of looking can broaden your own spectrum and your own thoughts, and you can move faster. So really look for building friendships outside of those you might naturally feel comfortable with.
Yes.
As soon as you are uncomfortable, look at that, take that seriously. Don't ignore it. Don't squish it to the bottom and think it'll go away, but look at it seriously and do an outreach for professional development or an outreach for support of whatever kind. Look serious. And I'll just put in a plug that coming up real quickly, we're going to be talking about individual development plans, and you can sign on to any doctoral net site and look for your individual professional development plan. It's a SWOT analysis, and it's a tool to help you do just that. And then don't ever forget your librarians. Librarians are the most unused, excellent resource on any college campus. They know much more about a wider range of topics than anybody gives them credit for. So when in doubt, ask your librarian. And so with this, which is the end of our first section, if anyone feels like typing in a question or an outcome of whether that section was useful, let us know, and we will continue on. Second section, tricks. So to building success, and Laura's mentioned a few. Again, there's the place to vote. Trick number 1, do not reinvent the wheel. Laura, I'll pass it to you.
Yeah, I see people doing this a lot, and throughout their college experience, and it's not even trying to reinvent the wheel as much as just trying to invent a wheel. And there's no need for either of those. It is so beneficial to remember that probably most things that you want to accomplish have been accomplished by someone. And so it's not that you want to go in and take that from someone else, but that you want to look at what someone has already developed or built and look at it as an opportunity for you to master your or conquer your own goal. And so I think that one of the things Alana and I talked about when we were putting this together is search for those things, templates and things online. There's such a world of helps out there with the internet. And also talking to people from programs that you may be in that can help to steer you in the right direction for those resources and those helps. But definitely don't spend your time trying to invent something that has already been invented. That just seems like a time waster. And so you can put your own spin on things, but first looking at what someone else has already developed and that they have already kind of paved a road that you can drive on. That's how I tend to look at things.
And Adrian says apprehension is feeling responsible with inaction, where motivation is feeling responsible and eager to act on it. So we know everybody who's one of the 100 people who signed up for this is eager to act on it.
Yes.
So hardcore things, asking people, how did they see the situation? How did they work through it? Did it work? What would they recommend from their hindsight? A lot of times somebody might have made it through, but would tell you to do it slightly differently than they did when they think about it later.
Right.
I like this, where will you be in 2 to 4 years, keeping that in mind. When doctoral net professional development gets really hard, that has been the thing that has kept us moving forward, is me being focused on what's it going to be like next year and the year after? How can we keep plugging away? And then I think this came from an international conference, to be aware of the tensions due to our personal context. So not everyone in that class is a mother or a daughter who has an aging mother, or whatever your personal content, or from a different country. Just learning to figure out the country you're in, let alone the topic that's your class, let alone the thesis topic that you're pursuing. So just be aware that they have different contexts. And with that, I love this picture. So what picture, she's running like she's breaking through the end of a race, but I'm going to use the picture differently. The left-hand side is the person who has started at the wall and has run forward until such a point that the contextual things are beginning to hold her back. She's having to run harder. So your context of needing to take care of the kids when you were in school, Laura, or those people who have the other context I've mentioned, after a while, that context tries to hold you back because you just have so many things you have to work through. That's when you need to have wrapped around you the future context. So that's where your networks, your diverse learning situations, the positive people in your graduate offices, the librarians, that's when those people really will begin to pull you forward and help you break through the homeostasis.
Right.
It's hard. We're not saying it's hard. Personal tricks, my favorites. Don't give in to perfectionism. If you think you have to be perfect, you're only making yourself unhappy, because it won't happen. Just keep saying, sorry, I goofed, and moving on. Don't overwork. Overwork for a short period of time is okay, but make sure you get sleep. Make sure you get good food. Make sure you are taking care of yourself. Once you finish the paper, the whatever, did you celebrate it? Did you include your friends that, hey, I've got a celebration tonight. I just did something cool. Let's go out. Work on that. I have don't procrastinate. Set a schedule and keep to it. Don't think, oh, I can just read this next chapter in the book, if in fact you can't, and that's going to keep you up until 4 o'clock in the morning. Reward yourself. I said that. Stay healthy. You can't do anything if your health is up and down. So manage that. We have some graduate students who are very ill, and we know that, and they manage their health as they go along. More power to you. If that's your personal context, then you're doing great to continue going. Be self-aware, and we will continue to hit on this through basically every professional development thing that there is, because that self-awareness is key. So we have put up our handouts in the handout section. And the reason you might want them is because we have tips and tricks for you, and you can link to them. So go, if this is interesting to you, the handouts have this page. There's some academic tricks that make what you're doing easier. So how you read, if you read like you have to know everything in the document, you won't make it through graduate school very easily, because there's just way too much reading. So how you read, how you think about your reading, how you put your reading together, that's a great webinar from our partner, Dr. Maria. How you organize. We have a whole box set that helps you put things in order. It's a how-to, critical examination of your ideas, how they go together. Unpinning bias is how, if we only think the way we thought when we started the new journey, we will not successfully make it through the full journey. We need to understand what we are leaving behind us as we go, so that we can pick up the new ideas that come from the new awareness that is, in this case, graduate school, but it could be travel, it could be anything else we do. So knowing what bias is, knowing that you have them, knowing how they show up in your life, very important for all of us. And then if, no matter whether you're going to do a research project or not, depending on where you are in this master's, PhD soup, you should know the steps of research and the steps of building an argument, because they come in handy. So those are some good topical things you can go click on. Once again, if there's any piece of information here that you want to call out to others as being important, wooclap.com/gradwork, and other people will be able to see them and see if they agree. So, Laura, now we're talking about the tricks, the actual things, the hacks, we call them, to keep moving from strength. And how do we make things take less time?
Well, I want to respond to what Adrienne chatted. What are some of the available wheels that we would not want to reinvent ourselves? And things like dissertation, scoring criteria. That's a great example. There are tons of examples of wheels that we don't want to recreate. And again, looking for templates. I'll give you a concrete example. I like to try to put things in the context of something real. So one of the things that I've been doing lately is looking over resumes and CVs for several graduate students. And I had a graduate student recently who came to me who had written down everything to go into one of those documents, but had not had not put that into some type of a template. And the reason was because she was overwhelmed. She had gone online and looked at templates for resume building for a particular area of expertise. And I won't mention what that was. And she was overwhelmed. And so what we had to then do was look at how to choose one of those, or maybe examples from all of them. So there were some sections from different templates she liked. So we ended up building a template from those. And there were sections from one that she liked better than another. There might have been a kind of a font, a look of a font, and the size of a font that she liked better on one that we incorporated. So that's what I mean when I say don't reinvent or invent a wheel. Go find those things. They're out there and available. Tons of examples that are so helpful. And even when I was teaching, you brought up scoring criteria. I always used rubrics, and I would get those oftentimes by looking at colleagues online. And then I also, I'm going to turn it back to Alana for just a minute. I've got to step away from the computer, and
Okay.
I'll be right back to continue.
Okay, good. We all have our backgrounds. Greg mentions, from an engineering perspective, accepting iterative improvement is something that he's had to come in terms with. I really believe that iterative improvement is the new perfectionism, because in a world where things change so rapidly, especially one driven by technology, because certainly all of you have noticed by now that no website is ever perfect. If we hold it to the same standard that we held things to, or to the extent we hold it to the same standard that we held things to when we took 2 years to publish, because the copy editors worked on it 3 times before it even went out in book form, we're always going to be slightly irritated by the commas and the apostrophes and other things that aren't there. So it is just our world. We do the very best we can. We hold ourselves to a high standard, but we don't let it kill our solar plexus when somebody catches something that wasn't quite right. But specifically looking at time, the model or template, perfect. And most of you have a pd.education site from your university. If you were to search on the word hacks or checklists, you would find that there's a bunch of different kinds of things that we've put up over time that students have found helpful. My favorite new one, though, because I'm writing another book, and I have recently really come to appreciate Microsoft Word's, the new 365 Microsoft Word has a dictation button, and it will read to me what I have written. And I have always said, and I've always believed, that if I could just read it all out loud, I would hear more, but it's even better when it reads it to me. And I get that this sentence wasn't quite what I wanted it to be. That this paragraph would just use some help if this long sentence became 2 short ones, and you just hear it, because that's the world we live in more than the world that we live in with words on paper. So takes less time. Also, it's more interesting, I think, to revise listening using this new word thing from Microsoft Word. And I will be doing a series of short snippet videos this fall about using Microsoft Word, because it's really become quite a powerful tool recently. We have in the past done a lot of work with using spreadsheets to organize your ideas. The link is in your handouts, and it's given to you there. There's both a video and a link to the document. Adrian mentions another one, which I will copy, which is copied and pasted. Let me see if I can read it out to the people who are watching by recording. Speaking of helpful resources, I thought I'd share this document that sets up to systematically map out one's dissertation in preparation for Viva. and it's restdev.brunel.ac.uk. And then it's a private file, but that is probably the student's basic website. And if you can see it on your screen, if you're watching by recording, you should be able to stop and copy it out. Just trying to think if there's a way. Adrian, is there a way that could be somewhere we could give it to everybody on a semi-permanent way? We'll think about that, because a very good link. Thank you. Okay, let's see. What else? Time. This is your big one, Laura, using an organizer.
Yes. And I'm sorry for having to step away. I just moved this weekend and I thought I heard someone at my door, and I'm waiting for people to come and fix things and do things. So I'm not expecting anyone right now, but I thought maybe someone had came early. Yes, in terms of an organizer, both one of the most helpful things and most difficult things for me to do is to use an organizer, because using some organization system means you have to dedicate time to it. And so as it saves you time, it also takes time. It doesn't help you if you don't spend time with your organization system, whether it's a calendar or a planner, or if it's an electronic calendar. So I have found for me, some pretty simple ways that I deal with a list of things I have to do every day or over a period of time. I love to see things marked out that I've accomplished. So I still keep a paper planner and I mark through things, and I love to see those things go away when I've accomplished them. I think you can do the same thing electronically. There's some planners and calendars that will actually allow you to strike through the text of your to-do item. That's just very satisfying to me personally. So I think it's a personal preference. Whatever makes you feel like you are staying on track, use something that helps you, and do it from the very, very beginning. I've tried to come into semesters before where I did not have things laid out for the semester. What I find is I get very frustrated because I'm constantly feeling behind. And I imagine if I could see your hands right now and say, raise your hand if you've ever felt that way, there would probably be, a good percentage of you who have felt like if you start a task and you haven't laid out that organization, that you're constantly looking back at tasks that you haven't accomplished yet. So as much as things are time savers like this, I think it's very important that you also spend the time setting them up. My daughter, who is a graduate student at the university where I work, is masterful at this. I wish she was here and I could show you her planner. She's also an elementary school teacher or middle school teacher. And she feels like that she really struggles with having to if she doesn't spend the time on her organization, she feels very much like she stays behind. I hear this from her a lot. So I think that's
okay. There we go. We're back. Laura is back.
Yeah, something.
Did it just blink for everyone? Did it just blink? I just had this major.
It did on my side as well.
Okay, but it came back.
Yeah. Yes.
I think it's two videos showing. We don't usually show our videos, and it has some complications, but we're back.
Right.
Last thing I heard was that you have to choose a system that works for you. You have to like your system.
Yes, I think you have to be committed to something. And if it's, and it doesn't need to match everyone else's or be something that someone suggested to you. I think that you kind of develop your own way of doing things. Some days I come into my office and I take out a pad of Post-it notes and I write one thing per Post-it note, put them all over my desk because I can't stand for my desk to be messy. And so as I get them accomplished, I can throw them away. and then my desk clears up. It's how I psych myself out to be able to get things accomplished by having something there that reminds me that I also want to go away. And so it's just little things like that. And I think just be creative, and also take work with you everywhere that you go. And I'm not talking about fun places necessarily, because you need your breaks and to do your self-care. But I just did this the other day. I had to have an oil change in my car, and I took work with me, and I accomplished probably more in that hour than I had the entire rest of the 7 hours in my day, my work day. So I think making good use of what I call in between time can really add up over the course of a week, and save you from having to do things when it should be family time or you time.
So I want to add on to what you said about your own system. I have a board that is the bigger must need get done during the week things. And then I have Kanban flow, which gives me the satisfaction of moving things along from here to here to here.
Right.
But I think it's important that we focus on what, not just the little tasks. Sometimes the little tasks come in, like I don't do my email until late in the afternoon, because email can suck time, getting a lot of little things done that really don't move the bigger chunks of work ahead. And at the end of the day, if I miss somebody's email for 24 hours, I can apologize. But at the end of the week, I can't. If I haven't moved the bigger chunks forward, then I'm really in a world of hurt. So we refer a lot to the 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. And one of the things he refers to, and that you'll find on the wellness sections of your pd.education sites, is a 4x4. And you want to keep a focus on the big things that will move you ahead, as well as the, I have to get done. So that has worked for me. And as Laura said, it's something I mentioned in the slide. Be aware of our circadian rhythms. I can get up earlier and get work done. And I'm also pretty good after 6 o'clock at night. At 2 to 4 o'clock in the afternoon, don't expect me to be super smart, because that's not my smart time.
Right. Yes, absolutely.
So those are the things that go on. Steering towards long-time success. Now, this slide focuses on work that you will find in the box sets on the cognitive and attitudinal things. But most people are in graduate school. At the end of the day, there will be another job, another employment opportunity that was not available prior to entering graduate school. Thinking in that term, in the very practical, what do I have to put in place besides just taking the classes or doing the work to get the degree? Well, that is actually the focus of professional development. Each person in this room is a different individual with a different series of what you are good at and what your weaknesses are. So once again, I'm going to say, go to the site, look up your individual development plans, do your SWOT analysis. That's one thing. Another thing is those 5 cognitive skills: complex problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, judgment and decision making, cognitive flexibility. We learn those, we work on those as we go along, but it's good to get a sense of what they encompass. And there's a box set on that. And attitudinal: people management, emotional intelligence, coordinating with others, negotiation, service orientation. Very important. We build them as we go along, but to know what they are and to have them in kind of your background focus will get you to the place when you're working with someone like Laura to build your resume using the story she told us earlier, where you've got the story that shows that those things have been built as well. Because they are equally important and a little harder to bring into that piece of paper that ultimately helps you get your job. Anything else, Laura? I'm shaking your head yes that comes to mind.
I'm agreeing 100%.
Okay, so once again, we would love to hear. Nobody is voting, so hopefully the tool is working. We would love to hear what this meant to you. And if you're watching by recording, you'll still be able to do that, and we'll be able to get back to you then. We're wrapping up this part of the conversation by saying that in the slides, which are in your handouts, we've put in some resources, wellness resources, time management, keeping your work-life balance together, things about worry, anxiety, and imposter syndrome, things about plotting your school semester by backwards mapping. Those are there. Self-awareness, we mentioned. We have a couple of good YouTube videos that are interesting, and you can listen to critical thinking, critical analysis, critical awareness, which is that whole criticality as well. Reflective reading, critical thinking, critical analysis. So links that if they're helpful, please pass them on. They're all open educational resources. And to end with a comic, and then we're here for conversation. This is a PhD comic about what you might feel like halfway through the semester if you're working in a lab that has no windows. You might not know that it's the biggest blizzard in history, or that there was a zombie outbreak, or the second coming came, or life in general was going on, because you may get so entrenched. And so Laura and I are saying to you, we hope you don't do that. We hope you always make sure that you go outside and walk around the building a couple of times so that these things don't catch you unawares. And then hopefully some of you will play with this tool. I was hoping so. In the wooclap./graduate work, if you give us some words, they will come up here and they will build a word cloud. So things that might come to mind as a result of this. And Adrian has emailed me the map of the thesis PDF, and we will put it up on the Open Educational Resource.pd.oer.pd.education site. So you'll should be able to tease out, probably take us about a week to get it done, this map, the thesis PDF, for those of you who wanted to see what she had. So we're here for chat. We're here for votes. It will make a word cloud, I hope. And with that, I will close the recording, but please stay in the room and chat away with us otherwise.
Yes.
So Laura, how did you like your first webinar?
I thought it was
helpful. Oh, good. It's a big one. And the fact that it came up that big said more than one of you actually voted for helpful.
I can't see, Alana, how many people do we have in the room?
We have, well, it's hard to tell now. I think there were 13.
Okay.
To the point. Oh, this is good. To the point is something we like to be as well.
Oh, good.
It's hard, especially with two people.
Yes.
To keep the points going as well. So organized. And people who are watching by recording, you too can vote still. So we'll see this live cloud change. Anybody else have some, as I'm madly trying to figure out how to turn off the recording? Doing webcams. For those who have watched by recording, if you're still here, thank you very much for coming. We play to an audience that is probably 10% in the room and 90% that come at other times. So balanced, good. Would you do it again, Laura?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah?
I'd love to. Yes.
Very good. Very good. I really enjoy it. I enjoy. Anybody in the room have questions? You want to chat? You can chat as well.
I'm anxious to do one when I haven't just moved as well.
Yes. Oh, look at this.
Good.
Actually,
That's
walk
awesome.
through issues. Okay, it's actually doing actually